Welcome back to our three panelists, Anna, Bevan, and Lily. So one of the first questions I have for you is, what else can be funded other than classroom supplies? If any of you could answer that.
Well, as I mentioned, I've done a field trip in the past, but also I've noticed that through Donors Choose, you can do parent engagement activities within the school and outside of the school, PDs, student-led projects, and STEM-focused projects. You get 3D printers, things like that. So that's really cool. Like those doodle pens. So there's a lot of really nice options listed.
And Lily and Anna, any other ideas? PD meaning professional development for teachers, right?
Yes. Right.
My understanding is that school clubs and organizations within the schools can also get funding. One of the things you might want to consider is that certain school districts only support certain of these organizations. So before you actually do think about trying to do some funding, crowdsourcing, please check in with your administration ahead of time to make sure that your district supports or allows you to raise funds through that particular organization.
That's a really good point, Bev, because I know that some districts too, if you're going to be asking for donations for technology, have certain technology requirements. They won't, the IT department, for example, might not service certain things if you get them funded through Donors Choose. So you want to just check to see if there's a policy within your district on that as well.
So another question we have is, how does this compare to applying for grants?
I'll take that one. So what I have found with Donors Choose especially is that it requires a lot less upfront work, and a lot of the information that you're providing is specific to your classroom and your project, whereas with grants there tends to be a lot of background information about your school and your district that you have to include. So the time commitment in terms of applying for a grant, which often would probably give you a little bit bigger of a chunk of money as opposed to just supplies, the overall requirement on the teacher and how much you have to do is much lower. Having looked at a few grants that I've been trying to think about applying for and setting aside the time to collect all the information from the district as well as my school was a little bit overwhelming. Whereas Donors Choose, you can just sit at your computer and knock it out in your prep period, should you be able to spend your prep period that way.
Yeah, I agree with that completely too. Once you get the initial setup process done, it's so much easier just to get in there and type up what you need for your campaign. You can sit, on a Sunday morning and get 2 or 3 campaigns listed within an hour. So it's really convenient.
Yeah. And with a lot of those websites that I listed as well, there aren't significant applications, and there's not a whole lot of front loading on the work. It's filling out and getting your information on these sites.
So Doreen, we have a question from Doreen, who's also an MAT alum. Doreen wants to know, is there anywhere you know of that funds a playground? Doreen is an early childhood teacher. In your looking up, did any of you come across anything like that?
Playground sounds a little bit more grant-like. Usually the websites that we use for classroom funding, I can really only speak to Donors Choose, but they're for smaller projects or specific supplies. Like Bevan used it for pencils, I used it for frogs. I do believe that you could fund a bigger project like a playground through DonorsChoose.org. There would just be a little bit more difficulty in figuring out where the supplies would come from because they have approved vendors that they order all of the supplies through. I can't think of any, like the NEA, not the NEA, I'm having trouble thinking of it, but there are grants that are offered that are specifically for outdoor play areas and like garden areas. That's a really big area where grants are offered. And perhaps we can send some information about where to find grant funding in the follow-up email.
I think that GoFundMe might be a nice way of doing that as well. So just check out GoFundMe because you might be able to put larger amounts on. I know in Donors Choose, they kind of cap you out at certain dollar amounts, where in GoFundMe, you can reach much higher. So if you need $15,000 to install a complete playground, you're not going to get cut off at a $2,000 limit like you will on Donors Choose.
And for Donors Choose, the first project that you fund, there is a limit. I think it's under $500. And then once you have proven that you will follow through with all of the funding requirements, like sending the thank you notes, the amount that they'll allow you to get funded increases. So I don't think that, for instance, $15,000 right off the bat with something like Donors Choose would be possible. So an open crowdsourcing website, not specifically for classrooms, might be your route.
And I've gotten 8 campaigns fully funded on Donors Choose, and I don't think that I can go above $2,000 still. I still think it's kind of more limited, but with $2,000 you can get a lot of stuff. So that's true. Yeah.
So once you apply and you fill in all your information, do you then have to use your own networks to advertise, or does the agency or the particular program advertise for you?
So I always post an initial post on my social media and ask people if they're not able to make a financial contribution to at least share the link. That's to me just as supportive as if they were donating money. And then Donors Choose has just promoted my campaigns, and I've really not had to do much legwork after posting it. What I do like about Donors Choose is that you can set it up so they post for you. So every time I've gotten a contribution, they automatically post a thank you to my social media page, so I don't have to go on and spend that time. So it's an automatic post, which keeps people thinking about the crowdsourcing that I'm doing.
Yeah, and Adopt a Classroom, Donors Choose, GoFundMe, all of those, once you have posted pictures of your classroom, of the projects you're and the resources that you're trying to find funding for, they will post those pictures for you. So as people are looking through, and like I said, you can kind of categorize. So if donors are looking for specific areas in the states to fund, they can find your area. They'll see a picture of you. They'll see a picture of you in your class, in your classroom, things like that.
What's great about Donors Choose also is they'll send you emails for times of the year and for specific days that are particularly funded. Like there's National Giving Day. So you get a bunch of emails from them about posting projects, because there's a much higher likelihood that somebody random will see your project, pick it out of the list, and give you some amount of money. I found that particularly with the match fund projects, they advertise those much more. They're easier to get funded because people are looking for those match donations. They're more inclined to give you to donate to your campaign. So definitely using the match funding helps you go outside of your own network and find more people just in the sphere of Donors Choose. Donors Choose is well known enough that I think a lot of people just use it and find it. My frog project was, like, the last donation was made by the school nurse at my school, and I had never even spoken to her about it. It was just something that she frequented and donated to, and she happened to find a project that was happening in her own building, which was awesome. So I haven't had to draw on my own networks very much, which I appreciate about these websites. I'm not always hitting my friends up for money.
Yeah.
Is there certain criteria to get the matching ones? Does it have to be a certain dollar amount? Does it have to be a certain type of funding that you're looking for?
It depends on the actual campaign itself. So we'll say very specifically on the match funding page what the requirements are to get the match. They will double, triple, quadruple funds depending. So you have to really read the fine print of the details. A lot of them actually have rubrics that you have to follow. So once you submit it to the specifications that they require, they'll send you an email letting you know that you've qualified for that. You do have to be really careful though, because sometimes you have to type in a special code. So you can't just click on that link. You have to type in that special code for it to link to your campaign, or you'll miss out on that matching. So be really careful, read all the fine print before you start to set up the campaign, because it's much more difficult to go back and put that in afterwards.
That being said, shout out to all people doing STEM projects. There's usually so many match offers for science, technology, engineering, and math projects, just because it's kind of a current buzzword in education. So there's a lot of companies offering matching funds for those.
And now they're starting to offer more STEAM grants. So they're trying to incorporate the STEM with the arts. So right now there is a really nice project matching program on Donors Choose for a STEAM project.
What about if people want to work on issues of diversity and racial and social justice? Are there any, do you know of any particular grants, or could you just go to the same organizations?
I'm certain that there's got to be some grants out there that are specific to inclusive classroom strategies. But that being said, you can use Donors Choose and these other tools to purchase materials of any kind for your classroom. So if you were looking for a specific set of books that covered a given topic, or you were looking for a certain game or activity, you would very likely be able to purchase it through Donors Choose or one of these other websites, which is great because you have the flexibility to create your own projects.
And I haven't done it before, but you can have students develop a program. So if they want to do some sort of awareness, raise awareness in the school community or in the city that they live in, they can develop something that's going to reach a wider audience and then pitch it through Donors Choose, which is really great. One of my coworkers, kind of changing gears here, she wanted to just get some simple supplies so kids would be occupied during indoor recess in the wintertime. And so she was able to get, for her second grade classroom, a lot of little hands-on little games and stuff to keep her kids occupied during that time, so they're more focused and not all of the classroom.
And I really did like Adopt a Classroom, only because teachers can promote their classrooms, especially after disasters. So after the hurricane recently in Texas, a lot of classrooms posted on Adopt a Classroom to receive funding so that they could pretty much rebuild their classrooms from the ground up. So that one was a really neat organization. And you can also promote, you know, no matter what your classroom is, even if you know, whether you need pencils or whether you need software, it's a good website.
So if you have any questions, it would be great to send them now. We'll wait for 1 or 2 more minutes, and if we don't have any questions, we'll sign off, but we will be sending a link to both the video from the show as well as the PowerPoint, so you can all click on these, and I'm sure that Lily, Bevan, and Anna will be happy to answer any questions. So I'll check if I can share their emails with you, because I think sometimes it's just easier to talk to somebody as you walk through some of those applications. So Bevan, can you remember one of your colleagues, Kate O'Donnell, also managed to get a couple of projects funded? Do you know what she had got funded?
Yeah, her projects were similar to mine as well. So classroom supplies, she did wobble seats like I did. She's a second grade teacher in the school, but you know, the kids are rambunctious in middle school as well. So wobble seats, bouncy bands, Chromebooks, iPads, really pretty much whatever you can dream up for your classroom, you can find funding for, I think, through these programs.
And Bevan, the way that your programs worked, and Lily's yours too, I think, you didn't actually have to go out and buy them. You just ordered them and then they send you the box and the box arrives.
Yeah, so that's as part of the program. You go on, it's like you're ordering it before you send out for the request for the funding. So you pick out all of the items and just then it gets approved and posted, right?
Yeah, yep. And so your frogs just arrived one day.
They did. I had to warn our principal's clerk in advance that there was a box full of frogs coming to the office. And she freaked out and was like, well, you'll have to come get this.
Once the funding goes through, you do have to accept it. So you'll get an email saying, you've been fully funded. Are you going to follow through with this campaign? And then you have to do some simple clicking to get the process rolling along. So I have 3 campaigns that just got funded, but I'm not going to get my items until the first week of January, of course, because they don't ship during vacation weeks. Mm-hmm. So if you do a campaign in the summer, a lot of times they won't ship it to you unless you tell them there's office staff available. So you kind of have to read that carefully before you proceed. So last summer when I got my Chromebooks funded, I had to go in and make sure that everything arrived okay. Mm-hmm. And it didn't.
Great, we don't have any more questions, so I think we're going to end for the evening, and I just want to say how proud I am of our graduates of the Master of Arts in Teaching program at Magnolia College and our current students for being so innovative and for not letting anything get in their way of being effective teachers for all of our children. I mean, I personally think that all of these things should be funded through all the taxes that we pay, but nevertheless, they have found a way to make sure that there is no excuse not to give every child the education that they deserve. So thank you so much. Thank you for being great educators. And Anna, I look forward to hearing from you in a year's time when you start teaching. And I think we'll end the meeting. And thank you all for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.